Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our members and guests. My name is Stephen Longmire, and I'm this year's president of the DIA. Due to the global pandemic, we've opted to continue to hold our meeting as virtual webinars. The two key mandates of the Digital Imaging Association are to provide educational and networking opportunities for our members. At this time, we have to forego the networking for everyone's safety, but I hope you find this educational aspect worthwhile, and we do look forward to your feedback. Our membership is comprised of prepress, printers, packaging converters, designers, advertisers, print buyers, equipment and consumable manufacturers, as well as vendors. If you are joining us as a guest today, please consider joining the Digital Imaging Association. Today's session is just an example of the high caliber meetings that we run. And if you'd like more information on membership, please contact either myself or Marg McLeod at 416-245-4941 or Marg, M-A-R-G, at digitalimagingassociation.com. Like most trade associations today, financial stability does not come from the membership revenues alone. And so we turn to the vendors and suppliers to support our goals as an association. We're honored to continue to receive the support and recognition of the DIA's contribution to the growth of development of the graphics industry from the following companies. Our platinum sponsors are Canon, EFI, HP, Konica Minolta, and Spicers. Our gold sponsors are Adobe, Fujifilm, Graphics Canada, and Heidelberg. We ask that you please consider these companies and their demonstrated support of the industry when making your future purchasing decisions. The technology for today's webinar has been generously provided by HP. The topic for today's webinar is wide format, a growth opportunity for your business. Commercial wide format applications are the pioneer markets of this technology. And what started out as a one-off signage printing has now grown exponentially. Today in the wide format print environment, we see applications such as custom textiles, vehicle wrapping, wallpaper, interior decorations, prototype and custom packaging, backlit displays, banners, and even dimensional print. These technological advances create opportunities to expand your business beyond the existing client base. On April 21st, our webinar addressed industrial market applications, and today we've assembled a panel to discuss commercial market applications. The moderator for today is myself, Stephen Longmire, National Sales Manager with Sydney Stone. My role includes researching new product lines and manufacturers to distribute, setting pricing structures, managing our partner program, and conceiving and implementing marketing initiatives to support our sales efforts. Some of you may know me prior to my time with Sydney Stone, as I was the associate publisher of Print Action for 13 and a half years. I was responsible for all sales and special projects, organizing and hosting the Canadian Printing Awards, as well as Print Forum. I've supported the Canadian Print Scholarship Fund for many years in my previous role, and I also have served on the Digital Imaging Association board for the past 5 years, including the last 2 as president. I'd also like to introduce Dave Buchanan, who's the National Solutions Specialist for Spicers. In his 20+ years in the industry, Dave has worked in every print shop environment, from running in-plants for a large financial services firm to commercial, franchise, vehicle, and in-store specialty wide format shops. Dave's commitment to practical business solutions and customer satisfaction has made him a go-to resource for inspiration, education, and innovation. 20+ years later, his inquisitive nature continues to contribute to creative problem solving and technical expertise for taking wide format projects from conception to production. Well, joining us today, we have Peter Evans, who's a founding partner of Icon Digital Solutions. Working with partners Juan Lau, Peter Young, Peter helped launch Icon in 1995 at the age of 22 while finishing his last year of university. Peter's been responsible for the company's rapid revenue growth, landing reputable brands like L'Oreal, Christian Dior, Adidas, the Brooklyn Nets, the Hudson's Bay Company, as well as Maple Leaf Sports. He's been instrumental in identifying key market segments to target and has helped Icon set itself up to become a visual communications leader to the beauty, retail, fashion, and sports industry. Peter is directly involved in all major client contracts and has led Icon's recent US expansion. Managing projects based out of New York City, in addition to business development activities, Peter contributes to work closely with Juan and CFO Alex Christopoulos to help shape overall company strategy, growth planning, and financial management. Also joining us today is Colleen Finn, who's Senior Operations Director of Alliance Franchise Brand. Colleen has spent much of her career supporting the success of print and signage franchise members. Starting out as operation advisor for Signarama, Colleen became a field support manager with Quick Copy Printing Canada, which is now KKP, and is currently the Senior Canadian Operations Director for Alliance Franchise Brands, LLC, and its subsidiary, KK Printing Canada, ULC. Colleen provides operational support to KKP and Canadian Allegro Marketing and Print Mail members. As well today, we have Laurence Lefebvre, Vice President, Strategy and IT at Lamcom Technologies. Laurence is a passionate entrepreneur, particularly skilled in strategy, technology, as well as optimization. After graduating with a Bachelor of Commerce from McGill University in Finance and Technology, she spent 4 years working as a strategy consultant for IBM Learning, consulting and business optimization. At 26 years old, her desire for bigger challenges and personal development led her to quit her corporate job and start her own business. Blankshire offers high-quality custom art prints to artists, gallery owners, as well as consumers. She also joined her 40-year-old family industry printing business as Vice President of Strategy and IT. Most recently, Laurence and her team have also founded Artza, a Canadian business that offers original, eco-friendly, and easy-to-install wallpapers. Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I want to encourage our attending guests as well to please feel free to submit any questions you may have to the panel. If you would like them posed to a specific panel member, please reference the panelist's name in the question. If not, I'll pose the question to the panel as a whole. I'd like to open up the questions to the panel today. And please feel free to chime in at any order you'd like, but what markets have you seen the greatest potential for growth using large format technologies in your opinions? I open it up to the panel.
I'll launch this off, sorry. What we're experiencing is, we believe there's a big growth opportunity in environmental and experiential design. You know, things are, when they open up, are going to become more and more competitive. We have to welcome people back to work, and you probably have seen, you know, the banks reimagining themselves. I think with this growth change, I think this is going to continue to snowball, especially trying to get people back into the brick and mortars. Also, there's a bit of a shift with real estate, I think. You know, corporate offices moving out, and malls. Potentially, you know, we've seen this in the States more so, but we're finding there's a private capitalization on emptying mall spaces where schools are moving in, gaming companies, etc. So these are some of the things that, you know, we're noticing in the marketplace.
For us, because, you know, we lost a lot of our business during COVID related to events and festival, it forced us to reinvent ourselves. And we decided to take the route of home decor, so the B2C market. And that's why we launched Artza & Co. A few months ago, actually. So it's unique, original wallpapers, and it's different than murals. So it's a bit easier to produce because it's the same tile all the time instead of being custom murals. And now we're starting more and more marketing to develop the B2C brand. So now we have 2 B2C brands, which is Blank Space for art prints and Artza & Co. for wallpapers. So we decided to go the route of B2C market.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that really echoes with the industry as a whole. If you look at the Canadian market, we've had a massive growth in B2C with home decor, you know, customized dye sublimation. I can't tell you the number of people that have called me trying to figure out how to do Cricut at home for making their own mugs and making their own kids decor and little crafty things. And then at the same time, we're also seeing a huge explosion in conversations with our large financial companies that have now realized that, you know, the last 10 years where they moved to these great open concepts and beautiful wide open spaces with desk sharing and all that has to go back the other way. So now there's a mass rebranding of, we've got to tear out these entire floors. We have to put offices back in. We have to put partitions back in. How are we going to make this look nice? How are we going to brand it? And that's where the big conversations are coming in. And then of course, it's the home packaging. A lot of brands have really gone to these creative, specialized packages for delivering to home customers. You know, you look at Steam Whistle, they've come out with new programs for home delivery. All these companies have switched gears from going through a retail standpoint to now delivering at home, and are taking the time to put a little extra effort into that packaging and make it that one-off specialty, just to try and keep that customer retained, because they don't have any other way of reaching them.
Interesting. Peter, Peter yourself?
Yeah, actually, Dave, we've seen quite a bit of that. We've been making these custom boxes that go to our clients' homes that are stuffed with, you know, some paraphernalia. Sometimes originally it was, you know, sort of COVID safety items. Now it's more fun stuff. Some of the sports teams that we work with are sending their season ticket holders, you know, little packages that involve anything from like a soccer scarf to, you know, calendars and, you know, some sort of promotional items for the team, which has been fun. So we've been doing a lot of sort of mailing to homes, which is a little different than what we're used to, is sending things to stores and stadiums and whatnot. I still think retail is going to be a big one, you know, when things open up. You know, you see all the trend of brick and mortar and things closing, but we find our retail clients, they're closing stores that weren't doing well, but they're investing more into the ones that are. And the biggest thing that the retailers are trying to do with stores now is keep them fresh, you know, and be able to transform the look and feel of the store from a, you know, a weekly, monthly, you know, certainly quarterly basis to keep customers coming and seeing something new. So they've got to cut through the clutter of, you know, other stores and obviously online, and create unique experiences. And with large format graphics, I mean, when we started in 1985, things took a long time to print, materials were expensive. Now, I mean, you can transform windows, walls, and floors of a retail space very, very quickly, very inexpensively, using material that's highly removable. So we're seeing a lot of that. We saw that trend pre-COVID, and I think we're going to see more and more of that. Also, I think experiential events are going to be really big when COVID finishes. I'd like to think that there's going to be a lot of pent-up demand for people to get out, certainly out of their house. I think you're going to see a lot of brands do some really unique, fun events. And, you know, large format printing is obviously fantastic for that type of work. So I see those as two real big, you know, potential growth areas once things open up. And I think that's imminent. So that's what we're seeing.
Correct. Yeah, I actually see probably a lot of wide format being used for actually trigger through like RFID embedding, things like that as well too, to kind of broaden the experience too, to make digital and print integrated, which it's been kind of adopted in a little bit, but now to try to entice people in to have, yeah, like a true experiential experience on site in a brick and mortar. I think there's a lot of opportunity in this as well.
And if I can quickly just add another comment into this, I can gauge some of my experience as well, I think, to the United States. And we're seeing a lot of the bigger retailers move to smaller footprints. And so there's opportunity for signage in that respect, but the experiential, the environmental design, I think is a huge thing. And they're even seeing this in the corporations attempting to welcome back their employees so they don't come back to the gray walls, and, you know, trying to make them more comfortable and happy in the workspace that is not their home.
True. I guess, yeah, that kind of segue a little bit into this next question is how important it is to choose the right medium and profile for an application. I guess it could also be greatly reduce the cost of imprinting, increase the environmental sustainability of the medium, but it also could be, to Colleen's point, kind of almost more of a welcoming, calmer, you know, redesign of an existing office space to try to encourage people to come back and feel relaxed. So what would kind of be the most important ways of choosing your mediums? I'll start with,
I guess I'll kick this one off.
substrate specialist. Perfect. Here you go, Dave.
I think we have two things we have to look at. There's a couple trends that are really starting to show that are coming in from Europe. So the trends coming in from Europe are really based around that environmental space and making it more functional, but also more appealing to the user. So we're seeing a lot of specialty decor being set up in individual offices. I had one conversation with a large retailer that's looking at Canada as their next expansion, and they actually want their offices where each room is individualized to the person that's actually going to be inhabiting it. So it's kind of a last minute crazy concept they're coming up with, but this is what everyone wants because they're trying to get everyone comfortable with that idea of, okay, you've lived in your condo for the last 14 months. You're used to being in sweatpants and a t-shirt. We want you into the office now. Let's make it yours. Let's make it your space, your feelings, your style. So there's going to be a big push on customized wall graphics that literally have to account for the fact that this employee may be here a short time, this employee may be here a long time. As well as just the whole, we still have to account for the HR decisions around COVID and around segregation and around separation, but it's about integrating them into the environment, not making them that standout. Here's a giant piece of plexiglass just hanging in front. It's how do we make it part of the environment now? So there's going to be a lot of, permanent optically clear films that are going to be transitioned with frosting, shadowings, just to make it actually appear as it's part of the function instead of that reminder of, oh, right, we had this COVID thing and there's now plexiglass permanently bolted to people's desks and reception areas that no one wants to see anymore. So it's how can we hide it? How can we integrate? And it's just making the choice based off the environment you want to present to bring that medium back into what the printers are capable of producing. And that's the nice thing with media these days is you have such a wide range of options that you're really not limited to how it's going to be done. It's really just the what do you want to achieve and what do you want to get out of this, instead of the reverse where in the past it was how do we hit this budget, how do we work with our partner and the limitations they have on their technology.
Correct. Peter, I see you nodding your head there. Do you have anything to add in terms of the medium selection?
Yeah, I mean, I think with so many different options now, it's really important to ask all the questions, right? Sort of when we train our salespeople here, never to sort of accept a client's spec that comes over an email saying, I want this on this material. We back them up and say, okay, what are you using this for? How long does it have to be up? Is it indoor? Is it outdoor? Is it flexible? What, do you want something that's sustainable? So we go back and we ask all those questions. We're often changing the spec that they thought they were using, or repeating old orders, is definitely not something we want to do anymore. We want to really sort of challenge the process and make sure that we're delivering something, especially with folks being, a little more budget conscious that they may, than prior, before COVID. It's important to really understand the use of what you're trying to do and make sure you fit the right product for the right application. There's a ton of materials out there that are, we're finding the trend for shorter term removability is much bigger than it ever used to be. I can't tell you the last time I had a client that wanted something the last 5 years. It's usually 5 weeks, sometimes 5 days. So it's all about asking all those questions and positioning yourself as the experts in the field and recommending something. And often you can win customers over long term by challenging what they used to do, perhaps giving them a product that's more economical that they can change out more frequently, and I think you get a lot of credit for that. So I think it's really important to ask all those questions. Absolutely.
It helps minimize the commoditization of wide format printing, which was happening quite a while before this event.
I can share that we, in the past 2 years, actually, we really worked internally because we had that problem of the client wants this. So we had inventory of like so many different brands and types of vinyls because, oh, we use that one for this client, that one for, and it became such a big mess that we try to really reduce the amount of brands we carry and the amount of medium. So we created like a decision tree with catalog products based on the same as Peter was saying, the how long it's gonna stay there, is it outside, inside, and it really helped our salespeople. But it's never perfect, and there's always going to be some clients that really want that brand, or they really want, and they want nothing to do with your catalog product, and that's okay. We satisfy everyone, but we do try to respect the catalog products, because we know for us it's the most economical, because it prevents us from buying so many different products, keeps our inventory lower, and also for operation, you don't have to load, unload, load, unload 15 different types of rolls all day, you know?
Totally, that makes sense. The volume of purchasing too will lower your acquisition costs as well too, absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. Colleen, anything you wish to add?
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on Peter's comments. 100%, I think that understanding your client's end objective is the most critical thing of all. They may come with one assumption, and until you know why they want something, what their goal is, it may not even be the appropriate thing, let alone media. So having those, in-depth conversations. Why do you want it? Are you trying to drive new customers? Are you trying to retain? Are you trying to direct? What is your requirement? And then you can move out on to what the media, the substrate, the end product should be. And this is a sideline. One of the biggest pitfalls I see that the print industry, printers get into when they move into wide format offerings, is they have an expectation that every project, you get out the old proverbial glass loop. You have to understand, the DPI, the viewing distance. There's a number of variables that can save you a lot of money if you're cognizant of them. So,
absolutely, I think a building wrap on the 10th story doesn't need to be anywhere near the same DPI content as a storefront window viewed at like 1 foot away. So.
And this seems to be, color matching DPI. This is a pitfall I've seen of people from the print industry who are accustomed to these requirements moving into wide format production.
That's a very good point. Excellent. Another question would be, what's the typical lead time? I know that's not a hard and fast rule. Every lead time is immediately, but what particular production variables influence some lead times? So like what kind of would be, obviously increased efficiency, inventory, retainment, things like that can make it quicker, but kind of like a best case and a worst case scenario.
For us, it depends. If it's like we do a lot of signage inside of grocery stores. So if we do a full-blown grocery store, it might be a 3 months project, and we do bit by bit because we follow the construction project. Or if we do a hospital, we did 2 mega hospital in Montreal in the past few years, and it's like one wing is ready, then the other. So we have to follow the construction plan, and it's never on time. So we're always the last one, right? So we always adjust. So that's a different variable out of our control. We adapt on the installation schedule. But if we talk internally in terms of production, the variables that really, normally it's like 5 business days, or 48 hours or 24 hours, depending on the client. But if there's painting, for instance, like a production step that takes time to dry and there's multiple coats, we always do those first, and those could take like 2 weeks. So it really depends on the type of project. Like if it's inside a store, like nice signage, often it's a couple weeks because there's painting and more steps involved. But classic wide format digital printing, couple days.
Perfect. Dave, I guess it'd be more on behalf of your customers, or, well, yeah, because they're buying the substrates from you. What's been your experience?
I was going to say the one key thing that, you know, I'm going to put on two hats for a second. So I'm going to put on my, I used to be the printer hat, where, you know, lead times, there was no such thing as lead times with some customers. It was the, why is this not done already? I sent you the artwork last night. But then there's the, this is what we actually want and we require. And now we build the lead times into it with the proper setups, with the proper planning. You know, it really depends on the project. The project really is the key, and setting the expectations with the customers. You know, if you're going for a brand new build out, what's your permitting time? When's the construction company actually going to be done? Because just because the graphics are the last step, we need everything done before that properly and to spec so that we can get in there and do all the things that are needed. From the distribution side, I will always say lead times are dependent on the products chosen. A lot of time we see customers, you know, they want that big fancy one-off thing that has a huge lead time or a manufacturing time or a minimum requirement. These are where, again, it's back to that whole project planning thing. It's involving everyone in your chain to make sure that you can hit everything that the customer wants, but you have to work everything backwards. Mm-hmm. Whereas the customer's just, I want this done. It's the, no, we need this, and it's just going through that checklist to make sure that everyone can hit their portion of the project, and having that full communication with your suppliers to make sure that that stock actually can be available when you need it. Not just the, we talked about this 6 months ago when we quoted it, now the job's appeared, we need the stock now. You have to understand all the steps in the process and in the chain. And that's the difference between wide format from commercial print. You know, commercial print was always just, we're printing on white paper, we can get white paper.
Perfect. Colleen, are there different expectations to you more with the franchise shops? I'd imagine it's a little more a sense of immediacy, perhaps, or?
I hope not.
Okay.
I think it's a bit of a loaded question. There's so many variables and there's so many different types. If we're talking wide format versus signage, is there an outsourced, fabricated, manufactured product? Is there, you know, the build out? Is the paint dried? Outgassed. There's so many blooming variables. The only thing I might be able to add to this conversation is process. Big advocate, go figure in franchising, but I think there should be a process for absolutely everything. And if it's the first time you do something, do it. Find out how long the permitting is, what are the obstacles, and what is the timeline. And I'm hoping if they come in and want it now, there should be an upcharge.
Definitely. Peter, I know sometimes you've been involved in large projects that have taken long periods of time in terms of like a whole brand rebranding thing in retail. But I know things like the Raptors parade, you had an immediate turnaround time. So what kind of do you see? I know there's no normal fits all, but how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, we get everything from, you know, I got off a phone call about an hour ago from the Leafs wanting to change something in their dressing room, putting up a big message in their dressing room while they play their first game tomorrow. So it needs to be done today. It needs to be installed tonight. It can't be installed tomorrow morning because of COVID protocols. So we get everything from sort of a same day McDonald's type of request. Retail rollouts would probably be maybe our longest lead time, where, you know, we have a schedule, you know, of, you know, spring, summer, fall, Mother's Day, Father's Day, seasonality stuff, where we know when we're going to need to produce. We know when we're going to need to ship. We know when the in-store dates are going to be. And, you know, we generally get artwork within a defined period of time. So those are sort of the longer lead times, bigger projects, you know, that we can have in-house for a week, 2 weeks, sometimes even 3 weeks. You know, sometimes if we're rebranding, you know, a large space, we're working with the Islanders right now. They have a new building, UBS Arena, that's being built right now, and that's going to require a bunch of signage. And, you know, we were working on that in January. We're probably going to get artwork in June, and that's going to be completed in August. So that's like the longest lead time work. But I would say the majority of our turnaround times are, you know, inside of a week now. We get a lot of stuff that needs to be done pretty quickly. So it's changed a lot. The problem is, we're our worst enemy. We do things quick, and we turn things around in a day, and we cross our fingers and Murphy's Law and everything works. And then that's the new standard with the clients, right? It's like, oh yeah, no, call them in the morning, they'll have it to you in the afternoon. Well, a lot of things that, everything needed to align perfectly to make that happen. And it doesn't always happen that way. You have the stock, you've got the staff, the artwork's relatively easy. You don't have any problems in production. You don't have any shipping delays. Well, that doesn't always happen. So I think it's trickier and trickier every year.
That's great. We have a question that was posed actually by one of our attendees today, asking if this pandemic has affected any of the timelines. I would assume it would be floor graphics. There was a supply shortage in the beginning, even I guess installation staff with physical distancing requirements. There must be a lot of variables that could possibly have affected it, but I'll turn it over to the panel to definitely answer that. Maybe I'll start with Laurence.
Yeah, so in terms of COVID, I mean, we've done a lot of because we do grocery stores. So all the COVID related signs inside the stores. What was the second part of the question?
Oh, sure. It was to see how that has affected your timelines, kind of your due dates and your workflow system. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as Peter was saying, we are recognized in Montreal for speedy project and delivery, like a 24-hour deadline. We can do it, no problem. But the problem is clients get used to it. They get used to it and then they don't learn, and you get trapped at your own talents. Exactly. But for COVID, because we've had reduced revenue, it's easy to deliver in a faster time. We haven't had any production problems, really. It's been easier.
And the media supply chain is caught up with the demand, has it now?
Well, actually, we've had some ink problem. Like this week, there's no way we can find Epson inks. It's back order everywhere. I don't know what's happening. Talk to people in the States, they're fine, but here we can have inks, acrylic, plastic, PVC, lots of raises in products prices too. Everything plastic, we've had some prices increase. We did increase our prices for materials a little bit. But yeah, delays. Acrylic, when COVID hit, oh my God, acrylic was hard to get. For a while, it was hard to get, but now it's not too bad. We always have a couple different suppliers. We never put all our eggs in the same basket. So we have a good relationship. So it hasn't been too hard on us.
Colleen, have there been any specialty medias that has been impacted by this?
Well, we're watching it carefully. We're watching it carefully because, the Texas storm had some disruption in resins, et cetera. We were fairly fortunate through the pandemic itself. Acrylics, we had partnered up with a major acrylic supplier manufacturer, so we rode that storm well. But we are seeing the same thing, the price increases, the ship delays, some of the issues. I think what Laurence said was very accurate. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Keep a very close eye. Have more than one supplier, and definitely, if your cost of materials are increasing, I would highly recommend that you revisit your MIS or whatever pricing system you have and coordinate accordingly.
I guess, Dave, you would be on the other side of that.
I'll be on the other side and just play the simple explanation of we have to remember one unfortunate thing. The end product goes through a lot of steps in the manufacturing process. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the market forgot a very important thing. I'll use acrylic as an example. Acrylic just doesn't appear. So you go from the end piece of acrylic, well, that had to come from an extruder or a casting line. That casting line had to source the resin from a resin factory. That resin had to be compounded from multiple factories of source monomers and source polymers. And when COVID shut down, those base channels shut down. because those were the ones that were hit first because everyone saw market's going to decrease. You can't just shut down a resin facility. You know, for the people in Ontario will remember when we attempted to shut down nuclear power plants and how long it took for those to come back up. It's the same process in the base material products where, okay, now the market wants to open back up, but you've got a 6 to 8 week lead time in each of those steps to get those factories back and up and running to capacity. So that's where we're seeing a long lead time from, is just getting everyone back up to capacity and getting the market flowing again, which then of course compounds into shipping delays and material delays and everything else. And this is when I say to everyone, you know, the best thing you can do is have those conversations with your supply chain to make sure you can shore up and make sure you can safeguard your materials for projects that you know are on the go. It's the most important thing because you can have those conversations. And, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of people will kill me when I say this, but adhesive vinyl is adhesive vinyl. Whether, no matter what logo's on the back of the liner, they're all made to the same specs. It's North America, it's 2021 now. Every manufacturer is making to the same specifications. Everyone's using the same base products. So it's about just having those conversations and that ability just to switch on a dime when needed because of a raw material shortage. So it's just planning and preparation and communication.
Peter, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, like Laurence had mentioned, anything clear that's plastic was really difficult to acquire. We shifted to face shield production because we have a lot of digital die cutters, and we secured some contracts with some government contracts and some contracts with some restaurants, some quick serve restaurants to make face shields. And we were scrambling during COVID to try and find anything clear. And, you know, not just for that, but for our retail customers, when they reopened, wanted us to make those dividers and also the stuff at the cash wrap. And that was very difficult. So during COVID, that was a real challenge. We're still experiencing challenges with supply chain. I'm not sure if it's COVID related or containers not going back to China or Suez Canal blockages. I mean, you hear everything about why it's happening, but it's still difficult. And, you know, we used to just take it for granted that we could get literally almost anything we needed, within a day or even sometimes same day. You know, we're lucky that the Greater Toronto area has a lot of great suppliers that have lots of inventory available quickly. But now we really have to double check on almost everything we're about to produce. It's also, in a good way, it's challenged us also though to look at the typical materials we use and say, okay, why? Why do we standardize with that product? What alternatives are there? What other manufacturers make products that are similar? What are their price points? Who's offering, better pricing? Who's trying to push big increases on us right now? We had a couple, and I don't know, I mean, I'm always a little skeptical of suppliers sometimes, maybe I shouldn't be. And I don't know how much of it is real or how much of it is opportunistic, but we've had a lot of price increases in the last little while. We're working with clients that have decreased budgets, right? So like passing down price increases to clients is not a good conversation to have. So when suppliers call us and send us a letter saying it's 20% more or 25% more, we say, okay, well, we're going to look at others. We're going to find out, which of your competitors have products that are similar that aren't going to push that on us. So it went from supply chain problems that those still exist, but now it's gone into this, inflationary situation, which is, not something that it's a good topic to have with clients right now. So,
yeah, I totally agree. Actually, that's a great sort of segue into this other question I'd like to pose. How much capital and storage capacity should be set aside for wide format, like a variety of most frequently used substrates? And is this an operating cost that's sometimes often overlooked? I'll start with Colleen, only in the sense that you're managing multiple branches too, so that must be even more challenging.
Quite honestly, storage and capacity is not an issue for us. If you have a big project related, something happening where you need to have pallets brought in, or you are doing a fabrication in-house, But quite frankly, with the just in demand, it suited our purposes quite well. I think just making certain that what you use for substrates, as in the board material, that you're being smart about your offcuts, keeping them to consistent sizes for reuse, and storing them properly. And as for media, I think Lawrence mentioned earlier, take a look. There's a lot of media out there that serve multiple purposes. So make your catalog and use it accordingly. But as for square footage space, that hasn't been an issue for us whatsoever.
Laurence, I know you had mentioned too, you've been adjusting certain SKUs and inventory that way. Is that sort of, do you have sort of a budget set aside space under capital investment that you kind of allocate?
Not really. I can't talk about the finance part, but we are in the city, so our space is limited and we do a lot of different things, maybe too many different things. So for us, it's always the struggle between we have to keep low inventory because we don't have the space, like we're not in the suburbs. But at the same time, we know there's inventory problems. We want to hold a bit more of like inks and everything that is vital to us. So now we're trying to increase our inventory a little bit, but we can't do too much either. So it's always that struggle and balance between, we actually talked this morning about trying to set up automatically in our ERP a minimum order quantity and increase it automatically so we don't forget to order, because we're used to ordering today, getting it tomorrow. We took that for granted. And now it might take 2 weeks, but fuck, we can't wait 2 weeks to receive inks. Like we just can't. So now we're gonna, with the production manager, set specific quantities for very key materials and products and increase it. And like a couple times a month, we ensure that we have that limit threshold in our inventory. So we'll try to maybe have bigger racks, try to organize the shop to hold more inventory. Of course, we don't like it on the finance side because there's more inventory, but it's like another side effect with inflation of COVID. We have to hold more inventory.
Absolutely. That's a good system too, where if your inventory reaches a certain threshold, it'll trigger an event or a reminder to then restock and reorder, even though it may have been, like you said, traditionally more than you would have normally kept.
Yeah, it was very manual before. Well, it still is, but we're trying to improve.
That's great. Peter, yourself, is there a certain capital or storage capacity that you allocate to this, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're in the suburbs, so we have quite a bit of space. And one thing we've done with a lot of our suppliers is do consignment deals with them, and it's been very beneficial for both the supplier as well as us. So we have, a lot of suppliers have skids of material here that we don't pay for, that they ship and they send a rep to come by. Or sometimes, long-term suppliers, we've got a great trust relationship with them. We just send them what we've used over the week. Sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's monthly, and then we just get an invoice for whatever we've pulled. So it helps our suppliers, minimize their warehousing. Some of the U.S. suppliers that we work with, they can ship direct to us, so they don't have to have local Toronto distribution facilities. And we have the advantage of almost unlimited supply of the par stocks that we use, and we don't have to pay for them until we use them. So I think that's a good trend. And we quite enjoy it. The suppliers seem to enjoy it. And if you have the space, it's something that you might want to look into with some of your supplier partners.
Interesting. Dave, from the supplier, sorry, Peter, I have never heard of that system before, so that's quite interesting. Yeah. Dave, from your side of it, have you found that certain customers you work with allocate certain physical storage or capital investment inventory thresholds, and have they been adjusting that recently?
Yes and no. So we get all sides of the coin on this equation. We get the customers that we work very closely with that inventory is planned for that just-in-time delivery, for that just-in-time requirements with monthly forecasts and monthly schedules and planning. Then of course we get the, hey, surprise, we need this now. Do you have it? Awesome. Can you deliver it today? Perfect. Away we go. And then we get the customers where they're actually planning ahead. They have their own storage space, and we become that fulfillment center to manage their ebbs and flows and their ups and downs in their business. So we see it from all different ways. Honestly, I don't know if the parking it on your floor is the greatest use of capital and space requirements versus production, or if working with a partner that provides that just in time with that proper forecasting makes more sense, and remove that from your cash flow so that you get the material when you need it, not tying up the space that frankly could be used for something that's more important, either more equipment, more finishing, more packing space. It depends on the customer and the situation.
Colleen, I saw you raise your hand there.
Yeah, I think it depends. It depends in Peter's situation. Apparently, they're quite large. They have a lot of large projects and last minute projects, etc. But we do have that consignments arrangements with multiple suppliers in our system, dependent on, well, quite frankly, it's usually the location of the business. So if you're, for example, on the East Coast of Canada, it is a smart move to have products on your shelf as a consignment. So it may be situational.
That's also a good point. Yeah, geographical as well. Absolutely. Yeah, that makes complete sense. If you're in a major hub, you could get it within a day. If you're geographically remote, yeah, it could be a week under normal circumstances. Good point. I know we were speaking a little bit about this subject prior to when we went live, but here's a question more in terms of a staffing question. Are you trying to attract young talent to your company as things are beginning to open up? And if so, what actions are you taking to engage with this younger generation interested in wide format, specifically now as things are cycling back up slowly but surely? I'll start with, maybe I'll start with Laurence on this one.
Well, for us right now, we're not looking at hiring, besides maybe in production. We tried to keep as much people as we could during the pandemic because we didn't want to lose the talents, and it takes so long to train someone. When you got good people, you don't want to let them go for 6 months. So we kept all the people that we needed. So we're not looking at hiring right now. For salespeople, it hasn't been hard in Montreal to find talents, younger people, but the position in production, like sewing, we've had hard time in the past 2 years. We changed like 5 times. It's a very difficult, it's hard to find experienced senior sewers. Yeah,
Gotcha.
But other than that, no, we haven't had a hard time.
Perfect. Colleen, I know we were talking pre-recording, and you'd mentioned sort of there were some incentives and things like that were being assisting companies.
Right now, I think most of the centers in Canada that I represent are similar to what Laurence said. We don't have, we haven't started trying to bring on talent. But I'm looking to the United States where, the bulk of the franchise membership is, and there's a huge labor shortage, huge. They can't hire people for love nor money, it seems. And people are having to get a bit creative because it's so darn competitive. You're luring people away from government's subsidies, employment, what have you. They're working from home. They have to go into a place where may or may not be perceived risk. So understanding the motivation of the candidates, and we're trying to look at creative ways. It's we think a challenge that may come to Canada. We're not certain yet, but it's a huge issue in the US. And as history showed us, quite often we're the trickle down, it happens there. Yeah, we're not quite certain. Retention is going to be important. And Laurence, I would really like to speak to you offline on how you're finding fabulous salespeople easily.
I mean, I didn't say we find them fabulous. We make them fabulous.
Okay, we should have a chat offline.
Sure.
Every salesperson is a work in progress, right?
Well, it's so custom and like different or industry. Like I don't do the same thing Peter does. Colleen does something totally different. You can't find someone that is like already molded to your specific business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're bringing up young folks with appetite,
As long as they're smart, then
initiative, yes.
they have a ease to learn, and they're okay with stress because we need like things go fast. That's what we look for. Then we can train them.
Beautiful, thanks.
Perfect. Peter, do you have anything that you've encountered? You kind of deal, you deal as well, similar to Colleen, both sides of the border with customers as well too, just not with, and businesses, I guess, both sides as well.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we were hiring more people right now. We're not. We're bringing people back, which is great. We'll get back to hiring. Our hiring practices, we don't really advertise anymore. Like we find the best way and the only way now is through referrals. Like just asking our own team for folks that they know that are interested. In fact, like we won't hire anybody that doesn't have a personal endorsement from somebody at our company that's known that person, who's worked with that person. We just find that our batting average goes up astronomically with any kind of referral. So in terms of like actively sort of recruiting different generations, not so much. Like we're just sort of someone who's fits whatever project or job that we have. But I find that the younger generations, it's the joy of the job is important, right? Like it wasn't, that's not how I'm 47 years old. I grew up that, you sort of, your social life and everything else is outside of work. And, with work, you keep your head down and you do your job and you work really hard and hope somebody recognizes you and you get promoted and make more money. That's not sort of a modern way to look at work anymore, right? Like, and so, when we recruit younger folks, it's all about, what kind of activities do we have? What's our social program like? What's our flexibility with work hours? All of those types of things are really important to younger generations. So we've been trying to listen and adapt and be able to create an environment. We have a challenge like any suburb place that with the trend right now with younger workers is to want to be in urban centers. Laurence probably has her disadvantage with storing materials there's a big advantage in terms of probably recruiting folks that
I mean, a lot of our employees, they bike at work,
Well, that's fantastic.
I mean, so we would move to suburbs, we would lose a lot of people that don't even have a driver's license.
Exactly. And consequently, we try and recruit folks from the burbs as opposed to if I see somebody an application and it's got a downtown address or it's got a something that's far away, I make sure I have that conversation and just say like, this is Toronto, like it might drive you crazy, coming here every day. So, recruiting from the actual area, that's a little easier, but it's tough. Like younger workers don't really want to be in the suburbs, even if they're from the suburbs. Often they move downtown, they want to be able to walk, they want to be able to go to fun places for lunch and meet friends after work that also work downtown. So that's something that, we have a real challenge with. And consequently, we've been really focusing on our own neighborhoods, folks that want to live and work and, are used to Markham, Ontario, which is where we are.
Interesting. Dave, from the other side, another perspective, have you guys as a supplier been, how have you been engaging with younger people?
Well, I think there's two sides of the coin from our side. It's how do you get the talent that you need? It's one thing to have an employee that's an employee that can do those basic functions and the everyday functions, but it's how do you grow that person into that talent you need for going down the line and for progressing, and that training level, that technological understanding, that willingness and that drive to, do something more than, the basic everyday job. And like Peter said, the big challenge is trying to find people right now is tricky for the opportunities that are available.
It's true.
Excellent. Okay, I'm allowed to ask, let's see here. This is kind of more forward thinking, I think, kind of not about existing applications, but with more and more substrates being introduced to the market, what applications do you see as growth opportunities in your business moving forward? Are there certain specific ones? I'll start with Colleen, if I may.
What we're seeing is, I guess there's two things. There's two ways to look at this question. The emerging trends in the growth areas we're seeing is roll-to-roll labels, packaging, and to some extent, which is not wide format, promotional products. For wide format specific, fabrics are huge, architectural films, street graphics, those things. I think it was Peter who was talking about how now you wrap blink and everything. So there's opportunities, I think, for the right client base in those areas. And hopefully not too vague of an answer.
I'll let whoever else wants to weigh in next. Laurence?
Well, for us, it's been, we're looking more and more into eco-friendly option. I find personally, there's a lot of marketing jam around the eco-friendly sustainability in the printing world. Let's be honest, it's printing. It's never going to be fully perfect. But we are trying, clients are ready to pay a little bit more, but not too much more for eco-friendly option. So we're looking more and more into that. And for us, it's been wallpapers, like murals, wallpaper material, easily removable. Now there's really cool eco-friendly options that are not super expensive, even for, office branding, stores. We use it everywhere now. And yeah, we even replaced some more classic vinyl with those like mural, easy to install, because it makes our job easier too when we install. So yeah, that's been our superstar product the past year.
I'll ask Peter then as well. Is there something that you see as a growth?
Yeah, I mean, as Laurence mentioned, sustainability is obviously a big one. It's funny. I mean, I echo a lot of the same things she's saying about cost and whatnot. It used to be everybody had these big green mandates, and then you would say, okay, so we can do half of your stores in a green material, or we can use PVC vinyl and do all the stores. And they'd say, well, go to the vinyl, right? So it's always, makes a lot of sense when it's spoken and, professed, and until it actually affects your ability to sell product. And then it's different, right? Although there's been a lot of growth in that area with sustainable materials. I think finding things that are like super recyclable in our business is going to be, is continually difficult. I think, finding things that are, sort of can go and biodegrade are going to be tough. It's the recyclability programs, I think, that are coming on board. In fact, we do a lot of work with that ferrous paper and that magnetic material. And I just found yesterday, I should have known this earlier, there's a company that turns that into steel, which is pretty cool. So those kinds of things, I think, are big, and convincing customers that the product that we're producing, whether it's on plastics or PVC materials or whatever, do have a recyclability component is important. Also, anything that the short-term stuff, right? Like I just find the trend is really changeability, quick to change, being able to put things up quickly, having materials that store folks can put up themselves as opposed to professional installation. So whether it be a ferrous paper that goes on a magnet or an SCG frame with fabric, sending professional installers out to multiple locations across countries is expensive and difficult. And so we're trying to, show customers things that their own people can change and reuse often. So those are some of the, I think, the trends we're seeing.
Do you do recycling inside of your production?
No, we don't. We work with companies that will take the material, right? So there's a fair amount of material companies, most of them south of the border, that will take, PVC banner vinyl and they turn it into roofing products, or they'll take polyethylene self-adhesive material and they'll do something with that. And we've worked with our customers so that we can go and pick up used material when we deliver the new stuff and be able to bring it back and send it down for recycling. So that's kind of the trend we're seeing. Yeah.
That's interesting. And Dave, from the supplier side, what market applications do you see growing? Kind of.
So we've got a couple things that are really growing. The sustainability is off the charts. I don't know how, it's probably 90% of my day now is spent having the discussions with large brands that are coming into Canada or large brands in the US that are looking at programs and working with their printers to figure out how we can make their entire program start to finish sustainable. You know, if we look at a company like Little in the UK that made that big broad announcement of they're going to be plastic free in a couple of years. That was a big statement when all of a sudden they turned around and went, we forgot that all of our signage in the store is 100% PVC. And now it's that mass push to, okay, how do we do this? How do we get new products in? How do we get that development cycle sped up so that we can actually achieve these statements that we've set? With that said, I can say that there are several new products that are going to be hitting the market as soon as the supply chain world eases up so that they can get here, that are going to be bringing in that full recyclability, that full outdoor mandate, that full cradle to grave situation. And frankly, there's going to be some new products coming out that are cradle to cradle, where it's just perpetually reusable and recyclable in a controlled chain environment. The other thing that's taking off is dye sublimation. Dye sublimation is rocketing at double-digit growth because of the flexibility of it and the what you can do. Be it starting with, you know, mugs and the trinkets and the giveaways all the way up to full signage, where now instead of having this big monster box, we're folding things up, sticking them in plastic bags and sending them Canada Post, because we don't need to worry about it getting damaged because it's fabric. It flexes, gets there, the store employees take it out, put it in. You know, we love it when it goes to a clothing store because they automatically have steamers there to get rid of those creases really quickly, and they know how to do that. But that's the big trend. It's getting into that sustainability. And as Peter said, getting away from having that nationwide fleet of installers that were driving up the cost of the projects just to get them installed and then going back again to remove them.
Definitely. Perfect. I have one final question that was addressed to Peter specifically, but I'll start with Peter, but I'll open it up to the panel as a whole. The question was that you obviously have a very successful business, which all of you do, our panelists. They wanted to know how you have been attracting new business. So I'll start with Peter and go through.
Sure. I mean, a lot of, you know, being around for 26 years now, you know, a big source of new business is through referrals, right? And we try and work that. I mean, the number one source of new business is through existing customers, right? Deeper and wider with existing clients. Often, if you're working with big customers, you might be doing really well with them, but only, you know, are doing a third of the business that they have. There might be other divisions there that don't know of you, haven't heard of you, haven't seen a presentation. So the number one new source of new business is deeper and wider with existing clients. Number two is always referrals, right? So actively training your sales team to actively ask for referrals when you're working with your customers. The best time to ask for a referral is whenever someone compliments you or your company. So you deliver a project and they say, this is great, we love it, we're really happy. Say, thank you very much, we love working with you guys. Hey, listen, I'm wondering if you might know of anybody else that could benefit from the services that we provide, the products and services we provide. You know, and you'd be surprised if all you have to do is zip your lip, and it's hard for salespeople to do that. And you'll find that you'll often get, you know, a bunch of information and some real great referrals from your clients with colleagues that they work with at the existing companies, with folks they work with that have similar jobs in different companies that can benefit from working with you guys. So we really try and work that network, number one. And then, you know, like the outbound calls to new clients, that's the toughest one, right? So what we've tried to do is we've sort of carved out our sales team into two different types of salespeople. We have business development people, and then we have account managers. And they're two real different types of people. Once we have an existing client, we give them to our account management team, which are salespeople, which are outbound, which go see clients, which are product experts, which, you know, are relationship experts, and they try and, you know, maintain the level of business, go deeper and wider with existing, grow the existing client business. But we found that, you know, we failed for many, many years having those type of folks also be responsible for new business, because once you become successful and you develop a book of clients, your capacity for going out and finding new customers diminishes greatly. So we have a group that just focuses on new business development, and they're working through referrals. They're working with, cold calling, doing whatever they need to do to find new customers, get people all hot and bothered about what we do, get a few projects in, and then transition that client over to our account team that can continue to take care of that customer, do really well with that customer, and then that business development person can move on to the next. And you usually, it's pretty easy to find, because, well, salespeople are not easy to find. Let me walk that back for a second. Finding people that are really good at managing clients are not necessarily the type that really want to go out and hunt for new ones. So there's really, you'll find people that, and they're rare, but are really interested in business development and trying to find new customers. And then you find people that are really comfortable working with existing clients and can be excellent at growing business with existing clients.
Mm-hmm.
And they're two different types of salespeople. And I think that, being able to have two groups has made us a lot more effective. It took us a long time to figure that one out, but it seems to be working. So
interesting. Yeah, acquisition and then maintenance and growth as like two separate ones almost.
Yeah.
Interesting. Open it up to Colleen and Laurence. Oh, Laurence, I believe.
Laurence, you're muted. You're muted, Laurence. We didn't hear.
But
I was saying it's funny because I hear Peter and I'm like, we've been going through the exact same issues. Us, it's like a year and a half ago, we were like, the way we do sales is not working. We're losing so much current client development because we're not like organized properly. And as he's saying, it's not the same type of personality to get new clients and to develop a current client. And because our business is very, everything's custom, you can have two account manager in like one client, and you lose parts and communication get lost, and then the product is not good. So really, we really try to have one account manager, but they don't have the same skills to like grow the business. They're more like project managers in a way. So it's to find a balance, and it's not easy. It's really not easy. We're still figuring it out. But us too, we have someone that goes for the new clients and someone that is account manager, project manager. And we're not the best ones to get new clients. We're really good at getting referrals and taking good care of our current clients. That's definitely an area of improvement, the sale bringing new clients aspect. What was the rest of the question?
it originally was, what have you done within your business to attract new business?
Yeah, so for us, it's referrals. It's really my dad started the business 30 years ago, and he never did any marketing, and he never had someone responsible for bringing in new clients until like 5 years ago. So it's pretty impressive that for 25 years, the business was able to grow to, a multi-million-dollar business without marketing or sales. It's really because clients are happy, so they bring more and more business, and they refer us to other people. So I think quality of your delivery, service, for us, it's service, service, service. We might not be the cheapest. We don't want to be the cheapest, but we offer a great service.
And Colleen, if you will, do you have anything to?
It kind of made me smile. The account manager versus the sales rep. You're hunter-gatherer, and this is an issue I think most organizations face, especially the really good hunters seem to be attracted to very high-paying positions and as prestigious companies. So they seem to be the unicorn. They're hard to get. We, of course, customer retention is huge. Customer retention is huge, and you got to go back to basics, make sure you're doing all the right things from A to Z, between your follow-ups, et cetera, to being cognizant of the accounts and where they stand in your organization. And I think we're hitting a critical, interesting juncture because we have a lot of new clients that have come in 2020 that may be more PP related, whereas the 2019 people may have fallen off somewhat and have to be re-brought on board. I think a lot of people will be seeing this in their database. We're looking a lot, you know, we do the referral programs, definitely huge. Pay-per-clicks, SEO, all of the online, especially today, you know, millennials, and well, we've pretty much been forced into it. It's not even millennials anymore, it's everybody living online. And, you know, I think there's something to be said for, you know, putting an eye towards verticals. Industry sectors, some of them, they're going to purchase same time every year and they have the same needs. So it's a pretty easy way to become an expert, right?
Perfect. Dave, I don't know if you have a more, it's obviously a different business model there, but yeah, are you, I guess, how are you attracting new business through Spicers?
I have always been a firm believer in reputation and service delivery. If you service your customers and you take care of your customers are always going to be your greatest source of finding new customers. And it's about delivering and maintaining that reputation and that deliverable status that gets you where you need to go.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, we did actually end up running a little late. It was a fantastic, well-engaged panel. I've really enjoyed my time with everyone. I'd like to first, thank our sponsors. Just wait for the slide to pop up. Here we go. And our platinum sponsors are Canon, EFI, HP, Conch and Spicers. And our gold sponsors are Adobe, Fujifilm, Graphics Canada, and Heidelberg. The technology was provided today by HP, and I'd very much like to thank our panel of experts today. I've really enjoyed the dialogue with Dave, Laurence, Peter, and Colleen. So I'd like to thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope you found it educational and fun. In appreciation for our panel's generous contribution of their time today and their knowledge, we'll be making a donation on behalf of the Don Gain, on their behalf, to the Don Gain Print Scholarship Fund. This webinar concludes our informal sessions until October 20th. I hope everyone can have a happy and enjoyable summer and be safe. And I'd like to again thank our fantastic panel today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
We just have to stop
That's
the
a wrap.
recording. Yep, we just have to stop the recording, Paul.
Oh, there you go.
And we've still got